There's reality of Africa in terms of being able to deliver. I mean, you look at the World Cup, the infrastructure that was put in place, South Africa was able to show that it can actually deliver a world-class event. However, there's still some perception issues to saying if I come to Africa, there's crime, there's huge poverty, which there is, but it's not the pervasive poverty that you see everywhere. There's areas of growth, and that can actually be able to take, from a sustainability perspective, be able to grow and make sure that you have a lot of the people from the grassroots being able to benefit from that.
Okay, certainly the reality is that Africa is on a growth trajectory.
Yes.
There are a lot more democratically elected African governments. There are fewer wars. There's the management of healthcare and disease and those kinds of things, but there's still pervasive poverty in the midst of this growth.
Absolutely, because it's almost like you have two kinds of society, like your developed society and the still developing society. And the challenge is how to make sure that you bridge the gap between the two. And so with the kind of growth that we've had in the past, it was the growth that was not shared equally. So that's why transformation becomes important, because you can have then growth and have an equitable distribution of that growth. And it's quite important to be able to then have confidence building strategies whereby you're taking people at the grassroots level through skills development. They can then be able to build more confidence, to be able to provide for their basic needs, and also be able to find jobs, because if you don't have skills, you can't be able to have opportunities. And then for entrepreneurs, having opportunities such as procurement and with enterprise development to make sure that they can be able to deliver on those opportunities, those are the more concrete competence building strategies that are needed.
What's not a perception and is a reality is the infrastructure gap in Africa. How are Africans addressing it at the World Economic Forum?
It's a big issue to discuss, because, for example, to move goods from West Africa to South Africa, it's a challenge. And so and you have the rail infrastructure that is not being utilized to the optimal levels. And so these are the issues that need dialogue, but then the dialogue needs to lead to action, so that you can be able to say, with the current infrastructure that we have, how can we then be able to optimally use it and then be able to develop further infrastructure?
I think what investors are saying is we're tired of the dialogue because the Africans seem to understand their own problems. How are they addressing them? Because infrastructure, for instance, is an investment risk. It's just going to add to the cost of doing business. And I think the UN once said 40%.
Yeah, but the question is the dialogue that is taking place has been at a high level. There hasn't been a meaningful engagement with the people at the grassroots, because they actually have very interesting solutions. And so we're seeing a trend of having local development and local dialogues that can lead to action. And that, though the output from those dialogues haven't been taken into account, and that's what's missing. Another
key theme here obviously has been inclusive growth, shared growth, uneven growth, where the emerging markets are growing and we're championing that growth, but is it trickling down?
No, it's not trickling down to the level that it should. And so that's why it's becoming very important to make sure that there is that inclusivity in engaging with people at the grassroots and people at the middle of this pyramid that we have in Africa. And you don't want to have the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, because that brings about political instability. So you need to address economic issues for you to be able to have that political stability.
And the shared norms that have been spoken about here in Davos, what do they mean in tangible terms?
Well, shared norms, I mean, you have those classical principles that are shared by everyone, but then there's cultural kind of norms that needs to be taken into account. We can't be a one-size-fits-all. So we need to be a diverse society that is able to appreciate all kinds of norms. But there are those central ones that are common, but there's, like integrity is quite important, such as respect for human life is quite important. But then there's kind of cultural differences in how people do business. And whether you go into the east, west, and the south, there are different nuances that are quite important for engaging people at economic level to take into account.
Right. And going forward with 2011 Davos, what sort of trends are we going to see emerge in Africa from some of the discussions that have come here?
I think people are much more ready, and there's quite a lot of optimism, ready to take action. Because yes, as you said, we're sick and tired of just listening to dialogue and dialogue and dialogue. And also, we're sick and tired of just having aid coming in without trade. So you want to be able to complement, yes, there's aid that is needed for the people at the marginal level, but you need to have more trade, because when you do more trade, you are able to build the confidence of the people at an equal level. So it's not like you have a beggar and a person person who's bestowing a gift.
All right. And a final question, has the issue of nationalization in South Africa come up, and property rights in general?
Well, it's been, I mean, we heard with the Russian president's kind of view on nationalization. So, and in the pockets, yes, there has been some discussions on nationalization, but you know, you have a divided view. And the whole concept of nationalization comes because transformation is slow, so people see nationalization as a way of speeding up transformation. But the biggest question is, how do you do it? And nobody has an answer to that because there's pros and cons.